we've exposed the board game mechanics to more people, and more people realize, hey, there's more.
Playing out a comic book page, you have an infinite number of choices to make in terms of the comic.
When you're dealing with comics for kids, because they're obviously, it's a different tone that you have to take.
And I'm famous for also designing Franklin the Turtle.
My name is Pulp, and we're currently at Pulp Comics here at 4559 Queen Street, Niagara Falls. Today we're having at Pulp Comics our 4th anniversary. We've been around since May of 2009. We've moved to our new location here last October, so we're celebrating today with our big, huge anniversary event that we do every year. The things we're doing today at Pulp Comics for our anniversary are the same that we do for all of our major events. Everything's in sale in the store. We've got sales from 20% to 50% off. We've got costume superheroes making appearances throughout the day. We've got comic book artists from Toronto, the Spent Pencils Gang. We've got Christopher Yao. We've got Poor Man Comics that we're debuting and promoting their Red Squirrel comic. We've got local comic book artist Vince Thompson from Vinny and Bud, and we've got pizza coming in from Big Vegas Pizza, our local supporter, a pizza place in St. Catharines, and a lot of other fun stuff, raffles, prizes, you name it, we're doing it here today. Newbies, soccer moms, veterans in the comic book collecting world. We've got over 20,000 back issues for those people that want to hunt down that missing issue to complete their collection. So we welcome all types. We've got a gaming room downstairs where we have over 1,400 square feet for your Magic the Gathering tournaments. We rent it out for birthday parties. We've got a vintage arcade. So there's no person that we don't want to come here. It's welcome to all people. What I would say to people if they're thinking about coming to Pulp Comics is don't be overwhelmed. Don't think that this might not be for you. We all read comics as a kid, most of us. I now see a lot of people that I grew up with that have their own children that are bringing them in, introducing them to reading via comic books. There's always something for everyone in here. Even if you think you'd never be interested in anything that a comic book store would sell, we've got everything from movies to paraphernalia to apparel to DVDs, anything pop culture. There's always something for everyone in here, and it's an all-encompassing, tight-knit community. So there's always something you can find at Pulp Comics.
Congratulations, Pulp Comics, on your 4 years!
Hi, I'm Rob Walton. I've been a cartoonist in the comic book and animation industry for nearly 30 years. When laying out a comic book page, you have an infinite number of choices to make in terms of the panels that you use, but there's really only one rule to follow, and that's focus and clarity. You want to direct the reader's eye immediately to the subject on the page. Let's take a look at the first 3 pages of Ragmob as an example. On page 1, we open with a splash page of the universe. A star is being absorbed into a black hole. In between the two masses, almost imperceptible, is a small flying saucer. The reason why the flying saucer is so small is because I want to emphasize the stage on which the action is going to take place, and not necessarily the characters. In the second page, we cut from the vastness of space tight on the shot of face of villainous rage. And it's the villain and not the hero we cut to. In a single beat, I want to establish who the villain is not only just the villain, but the fact that the stakes are as high in this story for evil as they are for good. On page 3, another splash page establishes the hero and the villain. And notice that the hero is on the floor at the villain's feet. Right at the top, it's advantage evil. The terse dialogue explains the situation. So there you have it. In 3 pages, or essentially 3 panels, what I've done is I've given you the setting, the characters, who the hero is, who the villain is, what the stakes are, who wins, who loses, who laughs, who cries, and how it all plays out will be told in the next 397 pages. But wait a minute, laying out a page is one thing. What about laying out 400 pages of story? Well, we'll talk about that next.
I was one of the founding members of the World Cyber Games. I sat on the World Cyber Games organizing committee back in 1999, and I created the first Canadian World Cyber Games. Comic books, they give us the heroes that we can live through their experiences and read about the victories and the tribulations and everything. Video games, it's about achieving those impossible victories and interacting with your friends to have those pretty much impossible victories and experiences and achievements. And board games is about being able to share that experience with the people around you in a social context. I think we're all realizing, as much as we love our mobile games, that we are starting to sit down at the dinner table and finish that last level before we have our next bite. And then while you're playing, you'll remember, oh yeah, there's some people sitting across the table from me. I should probably put this down. And so we're craving that social interaction again, because we've all gone so far away from it. On the other side of that, because the mobile platform is so accessible, and because board games are such an easy thing to develop for the mobile platform, better than taking huge next-gen titles and trying to port them over to a phone. Board games make a great mobile game. We've exposed the board game mechanics to more people, and more people realize, hey, there's more to games out there than I realized. In North America, the game culture has really been about Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit, and we've really stuck to the staples for a long time, and then video games are doing their own thing on the side. But now that the video games are bringing board games from all over the world and game mechanics that people hadn't really experienced before, they're realizing, wow, there's a lot more to this. And now they've had the fun on the phone, but the phone's had some limitations with multiplayer or whatever. They want to get that multiplayer experience. They're coming and grabbing the actual board games themselves.
I pretty much decided when I was around 12 that this is what I wanted to do. I just enjoyed reading them so much, and I enjoyed the characters, and I liked drawing them. So I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do to make a living. Either that or be an astronaut. And decided to go to university, and after that, actually during that, I started working on some comic book samples, some pages, learning more and more of the craft, actually talking with Brian Augustin over at DC Comics a couple times, getting some pointers from him. I didn't know anything at the time about stuff like sample scripts that publishers will sometimes give you to work on for creating your own art samples. So I wrote the material that I did. I used Marvel characters, but I wrote a couple stories. I wrote a Ghost Rider story that I just made it silent, no dialogue, just to emphasize the drawing. And the other one was a She-Hulk story. And that I actually went so far as to letter as well, so you'd see what the heck the story was about. I was very, very fortunate. And when I got into the business, it was a lot easier. I mean, it's still difficult compared to other jobs, but it was much, much easier than getting into working on comics today. One area that has changed a lot and has helped a lot with folks wanting to get started is self-publishing. Not going to get you a lot of money necessarily, but it's certainly a way to get something going. It is a very difficult business to get started in, but once you get going, well, it still has its ups and downs, but I honestly can't think of any other job that I could do right now that's any more fun.
My name's Christopher Yao. I'm a freelance comic book artist. I'm a former instructor of cartooning for kids, and I've done numerous freelance projects, including part of an anthology for Holmes Incorporated, which is a project of Ty Templeton's Comic Book Boot Camp. When you're dealing with comics for kids, because they're obviously, it's a different tone that you have to take. All the aspects of a comic have to be simplified but not dumbed down, because the kids that you're reaching out to, they're not simple-minded. You know, they understand the world around them, but you don't want to give them too much of an extreme of the comic, you know, storytelling. I found it to be a good sort of pause or a different take on comics, rather than, oh, I want to do nothing but superhero comics, or I want to do nothing but like day in the life comics. This was like a healthy medium. Like my nieces and nephews, those are the kids that I look to for inspirations, how they would react to things and what they found interesting, you know, and I would take that information and energy and I would apply it to the pages of the story, you know. And so I think with every project that you take on, you know, and every attempt, it has to be your best attempt, and it has to be, you know, just give it a chance, and don't be so quick to, you know, say, well, that's not working, let's just scrap that. And of course you're going to have like 300 or 400 or 500 ideas that you go through, but with each one you have to remind yourself why you're doing it. And so I think that my love for doing comic books shows in the work enough that it actually changes the decisions of people who come to me just for like a single image.
Tonight is one of our monthly game designer nights, where a bunch of people from around the city get together to play test our games with each other.
Welcome to Snakes and Lattes. We're just getting underway. We have a variety of different designers from the Toronto area and the surrounding area putting on all kinds of prototypes from back of the envelope all the way up to the barest mechanics possible. So let's just get right in and meet the designers.
My first game that was published in 2008 was Gridstones. My second game, Cortex, was published just last year, 2012. I got a Mensa recommended, which we're pretty happy about.
So Blossom is a tile placement and set collection game. You're all gardeners trying to grow flowers to make perfect bouquets to score victory points. So each player gets a different flower when they place a tile, so all players are engaged at the same time, and people, even though the flower theme may be a little bit girly for some, they definitely love the mechanics that the flowers are kind of like, they play into the mechanics well. As the founder of Flash Forward Games, I wanted to make simple, casual, fun games to play. Maybe not necessarily strategy game heavy, but games that you can enjoy with the family members whenever they come together and just spend some time together.
Today I show some people my new game. It was invented many years ago, 20 years ago in Russia, when I was professor at university. And now I tried to convert this game, transform to electronic version. But it's not simple because, for example, chess. Algorithm for computer for chess, you need for programming around 20,000 hours of programmers.
We're just wrapping up here at Snakes and Lattes, our game designers night at 600 Bloor Street West. We hope you join us next month for designers night and hopefully before then for some games. Bye now.
We talked about laying out a page of artwork, but what about laying out an entire 400-page story? Well, laying out a story is not that much different from thumbnailing the artwork. My preferred method is to start with a timeline. Now normally, a story's got 3 acts. As I plotted out Ragmob, I discovered, well, hey, I've got 5 acts. But that's all right. Shakespeare used 5 acts, and he was a funny guy too. Once you have your timeline drawn, you can start to plot out the beats of your story. Now a beat is simply an action that takes place in the story that's important to the telling. On the act breaks, you want a large beat or an important action to take place that's going to propel your hero from the first act to the second act, third to the fourth, etc., etc. In the classic 3-act structure, Act 1 introduces you to the characters involved in the plot and the plot itself. In Act 2, the action propels the hero forward into greater crisis and more obstacles to overcome. In the 3rd act is the moment of crisis, when all appears lost and it looks like the hero is going to fail. But of course, in a properly structured story, the hero overcomes the crisis, overcomes the obstacles, and the story concludes in a moment of cathartic triumph. So whether you're writing a comic book script that's 20 pages or 400 pages, whether you're writing a screenplay, a novel, or a stage play, structure is paramount. If your structure is sound, then you will have all the comedy you want, all the drama you need, and an ending that wraps everything up in a beautiful bow and leaves everybody happy and wanting more.
Greeting you guys from Unplugged Expo.
And from there, someone asked me to start drawing a comic for them, in which they ended up saying you should try doing conventions. So I didn't just want the comic there, so I started doing some fan art, in which it all started with these keychains actually. These were the very first things I made.
It's G-clay print, archival quality. Colors won't fade and they're true color.
It took me about a month to do Picard and all of his little details, and another month to do the Enterprise, and then about 2 hours to do the background before I could print it.
Definitely, a lot of my stuff comes from nature. A lot of my stuff comes from politics.
Instead of like having everything like, I'm gonna put this in, but I don't want to put that in, or I want to change this up. Like when you're overthinking, sometimes. I think it shows.
At Disney, I'm known for designing a lot of the characters for the TV show Gargoyles, and I'm famous for also designing Franklin the Turtle, which is used for Scholastic and the education system, and I designed the animated characters.
Every single character is like a video game theme, and a lot of them are characters I've actually played as, so like I have kind of an identification with these characters.
Well, I have a painting background. I attended the Ontario College of Art and Design, and I studied from '98 to 2002 doing illustration, communication, and design, and my medium was watercolor.
So when you wear them, they look nude on you, and then they just look like you have tattoos all down your legs. Because Japan, you don't get tattoos, really.
This is our online comic. All original artwork from this. We've got our cute, evil little summon monsters there.
I've connected with so many people through it because it was a part of me to sit and do that. So, absolutely.
Here at Comic Book Culture, we continue to explore strange new pastimes and seek out the keepers of the next wave. We boldly go the extra mile, gain the knowledge, and then bring it to life. With our outstretched international hand, we reinforce the belief in life, liberty, and the right to bear comics. We, the undersigned, are indivisible and in love with our comic book culture.